So hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Melt Insider. My name is Kerrie Bodendorf, and I'm here with Annabel Scott. Welcome, Annabel.
Hi, Kerrie.
Thanks
So
for being here.
This video.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So Annabel, tell us where you're from and how you first learned about the Melt method.
I am in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and it was the summer of 2013 when I first heard about Melt, because my career up till then has been Pilates. I own 2 studios still to this day here in the city, and Pilates is fabulous, and it's also evolving. So I'm always trying to keep my ear to the ground on interesting evolutions, and I come upon Melt. By November of that year, I am in Naperville, Illinois, outside of Chicago, taking my hand and foot certification, and I have never looked back since then. I am all levels of Melt trained, all the way up to the neurostrength. That's where I got to meet you, Kerrie, as one of the master trainers there. And I will also credit Melt with creating, in my mind, a whole new school of Pilates when they mix the Melt method with the Pilates method. So I benefited in so many ways. The business side does need to be spoken to. It is a great addition to anybody who is in a self-care practitioner position of any kind. And it also falls into the medical model. So I think it has got so much value there in the medical model. And I'll just speak to that too. What I've evolved into is taking integrative medicine and healthcare. So I'm in year 1 of a 2-year program, which has been not only my personal passion, but the validity and the evidence-based medicine behind both Pilates and Melt that actually is quite under the radar. And one of my passions will be to elevate that off the radar into mainstream clinical practice. What is surprising is that medical doctors actually do not know about fascia. They know nothing about it, let alone research on it, which is quite spotty, to let alone clinical practice. So if you are listening to this and you're either Pilates or Melt, I highly recommend you start following some of those trends about how we can bring these modalities into evidence-based medicine so it can get into the hands of people that really, really need it.
I love that you're saying that, Annabel. Yeah. And we have all our Melt trainings are now online. So they're accessible for everyone. You don't have to travel to do a Melt training anymore.
Right.
And we have one coming up. There's always one on the horizon. So
that's a great comment too. And I've been really lucky to be a TA, and I really enjoyed that experience too, bringing that forward. But I can also, one other thing I'll comment on is, in my life, I've always been, I've had so many good fortunes, but one of them is that I always have to watch my budget about what therapies I'm seeking. And the one thing I love about both Pilates and Melt is that you can do them to yourself. And that doesn't mean you don't go to an outside therapist, but for people who have limited budgets, limited time, and limited resources of any kind, these you can do for 5 minutes or 55 minutes in your own home. And for that reason alone, Melt has literally saved my life. And I would even tell somebody, like I tell my clients, I would Melt poorly rather than not Melt at all. So the science behind Melt is really what needs to get educated about and out there. Again, going back to my schoolwork, medical doctors do not even study fascia. They're just beginning to. So that is the transportation system for everything in the body, whether through the muscular skeletal system or through the cellular system. And we have some very interesting conversations. So one thing I would advise people listening to is to go to your doctor and start a really interesting conversation with them about how this can help as either an adjunct therapy or a solo therapy.
Right. Yeah. So Annabel, what has Melt helped you with specifically?
I will tell you, even though, yes, I would tell you I had back pain, even though I do Pilates, because we all have bad postures and repetitive motions. Even myself, I do it. I would say Melt helped me most emotionally and intellectually, because it is the organ of being. It's not so much the organ of doing. And the highlights for me have been, it was 100% almost like moving cognitive behavior therapy. When I take some of the self imaging and self-belief systems I was working with, and I started coming in through my fascial system as well as my muscular system, I cannot tell you what an absolute life changer that's been. It has changed. It hasn't changed me. It's brought me to who I actually believe my energy signature is supposed to be.
Wow.
And there's no other way to describe it except you have to feel it. You have to feel melt.
Yeah. Well, like Sue always says, your issues are in your tissues, right? You start working on those tissues and some past traumas can come out, but then you can deal with them and let them go.
Correct.
Oh,
And then move on. And so I would say it's been it's helped me, and it actually comforts me. So it's both. It's both an initiator of self-care and change. So it gets me to a better place, but it also comforts. And I would actually even say the deeper you go, it actually aligns you up with anything else sort of spiritual you would believe in. Now I believe I can really see what, for example, chakra alignment is. I think it was their 6,000-year-old language, only they were leaving us that information and we use it today, but you will feel that when you milk consistently.
Right.
I remember once being at a training, you weren't there, but I was at a training, and overnight I had this really interesting event happen. And I went back to the training session and I told everybody, and one lady said, "Oh, Annabel, you had the Kundalini effect, like from yoga," meaning it literally lined all my chakras up. So I had never heard of that really until someone educated me to that.
Right.
And since then, it opens my eyes to all sorts of other possibilities. So.
Right. Well, I love that you talked about all of that, because Melt not only helped me, like you said, with my low back pain, and it was the foot treatment, just treating my feet with these little balls that actually helped my low back feel better. But it was the rebalance sequence. And, I think all of the instructors that I've interviewed so far, we talk about the rebalance sequence, and it's done on this really soft roller, just lying lengthwise on your spine. We do a little gentle rocking, we tuck and tilt the pelvis, we do a little 3D breath, and we come off the roller. And I'm telling you, it quiets the nervous system. And I really believe it was the rebalance sequence that helped me get out of my panic attacks and anxiety attacks that I would have. And they were severe. Like I was agoraphobic. I wouldn't even leave the house because I would have such horrible panic attacks. And here I am, 11 years later, and I'm flying all over the country, training other teachers and leading workshops at Kripalu and all this other stuff. So Melt, like you said at the beginning of this, you said it gave you your life back. It certainly gave me my life back.
Yeah. It gave it back, and it constantly like improves me. And again, this is a hard conversation to intellectually explain to somebody. But when you get them to sense it and feel it and trust that, it is an absolute life changer.
It is.
And
they got to try it.
They got to try it. And they have to be somewhat consistent. So it has to be aligned with the philosophy that you can innately enhance the own innate intelligence of your body, and that the body has self-healing mechanisms. And I do intellectually believe that, and now I can also tell you I physically believe that. Now that's what integrative medicine is too. When I study integrative medicine in healthcare, it's from the premise that, and this is running adjunct to Western traditional medicine. This isn't an alternative. This is along with.
Right.
And here's the medical paradigm that we understand the medical system, and this is just running right along stream. And it works with anything, any condition. It can be modified and adapted, any actual pharmaceuticals you're taking. Because you're tapping into the fourth dimension of your fitness. You're tapping into what we don't talk about. Isn't it funny that all that we think about fitness is what we see, yet 99% of it is what's going on the inside of the cells. So this gets to that level.
That was awesome, Annabelle. I love that. So Annabelle, do you teach melt classes?
I teach melt on Zoom. When we are back in person, we do have in-person lessons as well. I sell all of the products. I also do the melted Pilates. So I'm 2 levels trained in the melted Pilates, both on the floor and on the equipment. A lot of people don't realize that Pilates is done on equipment. So I'll just do a little shout out for that.
Oh, absolutely.
And, the interesting thing about Pilates on the equipment is the spring-loaded tension, I think, was Joseph Pilates trying to tell us that he's moving the pressure of the fascia around. And I wonder, again, we have to do a study on this, right? But I really feel that. I feel that Joseph Pilates was even on this level because he's pushing the spring loadedness around, which is firing the fascial system, which is the basic stabilization system.
Right.
And so I quite often mix them, or I'll do one and then the other. So I teach it all. I also mix it with yoga. I am yoga trained as well. So we also do mix it in with a little bit of yoga for any yoga lovers out there. And then I do all the performance work for athletes as well. So we do it all. We're on Zoom right now. We'll be back in person when we can. And I hope to, I just invite people to get a hold of me or get a hold of you and keep carrying forward the goodness that all this brings and really adding it in. This is a game changer, and this is the new dimension. This is properties beyond what you're training. These are mechanisms that are beyond bone and muscle. They're beyond just joint. And the time has come for you to open up your education curve, and you will never look back.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of that, Annabelle.
Thank you.
So all of Annabelle's class description, website, all of that stuff, how you can contact her will be in the description of this video. And if you would like to share your melt story with me, you can contact me. I'll also put my contact information in the description of this video. So thank you so much for joining me today, Annabelle.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Happy melting.
Bye, everybody.